welcome Katia Millar. I am so excited to have you here. I hope we shake women and wake them up today because this is a topic that I'm really excited about. I'm just going to read your short bio. So you're the founder and chief inspirational officer of Positive Fabulous Women. You're a mentor, speaker, connector, visibility strategist, supporting purpose-driven entrepreneurs to communicate their wow in their branding, their marketing, and social media so that they can stand out and be seen. And I'm really excited to talk about this, not just in entrepreneurship, but in life as well. Over the past 10 years, you've gone from being overwhelmed, underemployed single mom to virtually no connections and no sense of purpose, to creating a juicy life, building a solid brand, and hosting over 350 events, growing a network of over, 15,000. This is awesome. And you're passionate about supporting others and transforming their lives. So I'm so excited to have you here, especially since it's like coming from nothing and creating. It's possible to create. So welcome.
I'm so excited to be here.
And you're in Toronto. So all the Toronto listeners, there's support. We just need to find it.
Absolutely. It's right there.
Yeah.
It's right there.
So I just want to dive right in. So I'm a huge advocate for sustainable motherhood, how we can create, and just let me know if I am freezing, just kind of put up your hand or something. How we can create a life that we want while being the mothers we want to be without this guilt and exhaustion. So can you tell me, how does one even start to find passion and purpose? Because that seems like such a big concept.
Well, first of all, I think it's good to embrace or accept that maybe guilt and exhaustion will always be a part of this motherhood journey. So instead of looking at them as something we have to avoid at all costs, maybe to say, we're going to be tired. It's exhausting being a mom because your heart is out there in the world. But how can we make this, despite the guilt and the exhaustion, how can we make this journey meaningful? Motherhood does not have to put an end to you being a woman of dreams, of desires, of wants and hopes. It can be integrated into motherhood. If anything, for me, motherhood has fueled my passion because when my life took a few turns a few years ago, gosh, it's coming up to 15 years now. I was a single mom with two small boys who were both going concern. Both of my boys were ADHD, spirited, high need, amazing human beings. And here I went from a good life to okay, I'm a single mom and I have to be not a victim, but that's how I became. I was just playing small and using that as an excuse to not do anything with my life. Well, I have kids, so I can't do anything. Oh, I have small children, I can't. And I just went from this to this to this to that. And then I looked one day and I thought, holy crap, I don't want my kids to look at me and go, oh, there's my mom. She's just she doesn't have a life. She's a great mom, but I wasn't doing anything with my life. And what example am I setting to my children? And I wasn't feeling fulfilled or joyed or on purpose or none of that stuff. I was just you just get caught up in the day-to-day, getting to the daycare at this time and picking up and running and the cooking and the laundry. I mean, it's all part of life. But when I stepped back from all of that, and what prompted me, interestingly enough, was being at a funeral. I don't know if you're going to get to the question of what started this journey for you, but
I was just going to ask you that because I think it's really important to go, what is that shift? When we're playing small and then what shifts it to be okay, now I'm going to expand.
Yeah, exactly. So I was feeling that discomfort because that's just not who I was. I'm not a small person. I'm not somebody who's just just living day to day. I've always been sort of big visionary, but here I was just kind of caught up in the day to day. And I was working, I went from working in big corporate IBM and this and that. And when all that happened, I was taking on small, temporary part-time work just to kind of give me the flexibility, and like ended up like doing stuff that was just not my thing. Like I was working in a manufacturing plant doing payroll, and like, ooh, what the heck am I doing here? Not to knock payroll, but it's just not a good fit for me. And while I was in the midst of all that, I had started working for this company. I was there like a month, and my boss came and said, "I'm going on vacation. I'll see you in a couple of weeks." He was going to Galapagos Island scuba diving, and lo and behold, this guy had an accident and died. So I didn't know the guy. I mean, I'd worked there like less than a month. I didn't know him too well. He was the owner of the company, sort of my boss's boss. So I attended his funeral, and I'm sitting there and listening to all the eulogies about Bob and really getting to know Bob through what people were saying about him. Bob was a great father, husband, this, that, but he was also an adventurer. He loved life. And I'm sitting there listening to all of this. Yes, I was sad that I was not, obviously, I didn't know him well, but I'm sitting there kind of in my own bubble thinking, so if I were to get hit by a bus tomorrow, who would come? And more importantly, what would they say about me? Right? I'm thinking they would say I'm a good mom, good person, but man, I wanted more than that. Like I wanted people to see me as somebody who was who loved life, who did things, who created, who was an adventurer. And here I was living this like really small life, just going day to day and feeling victimized by the whole thing. And that funeral was a pivotal moment for me, because I knew that when I was gone, whenever that happens, I don't plan on this happening anytime soon, but whenever that happens, I want my life to count. Love being a mom. It's like the first thing who I am, but there's a lot more to Katia than being a mom. And I look at my children now who are 23 and 20. Holy crap. And I tell them all the time that what I want to leave them with is not, yes, love and all of this stuff, but I love for them to see me hustling and working hard and giving up things for my dreams. And yes, indirectly it's for them, but it's also for me. It's not selfish to want things for me, because this is my life and I love creating and doing things. So there's a long babble, but anyway.
No, I love it. And I love how Bob inspired you by being him, even though you didn't really know him. It was his essence and how he was remembered. And then going, interesting, how is that going to reflect on what people say about me? So
exactly,
when you have this aha moment of like, enough is enough, no more playing small, I'm not in alignment with who I am, right? Payroll, some people might love that, but that's just not me. How did you start to say, I want things to change? Like, what was the first steps that you took?
That's a great question, because sometimes we get the aha, you have the little shift, but it's like, what the hell do I do now? Yeah. But the most important thing was the awareness, right? Having that awareness, like, yes, I want more. So what do I do now? So I started where a lot of people start, reading books. I was a regular at the self-help section in my local bookstore. I attended a ton of personal development courses, looking, searching, seeking. There's so many seekers out there, right? And I did a lot of that. And you get some answers. Yeah, I got a few answers, but not really, nothing mind-blowing. Like, I mean, after years, I think it took me about 5 years after the Bob's funeral to actually do anything like big leap, because I was doing all the searching and waiting for something to like go, ta-da, this is what I needed to do. And all I got was that I was a connector. I'm thinking, all right, great. I'm a cat. I like how I phrased it. It was catalyst for connection. Great. Mm. Now what? Who am I connecting? For what purpose? Am I a recruiter? Am I a matchmaker? Am I a real estate? I mean, there's a ton of people connecting, right? What am I connecting? And then you get to the point, well, I got to the point of thinking, I don't need any more answers. I have enough. I know enough to do to take a step. Sometimes we get caught up in the search, right? There are a lot of seekers out there who are lifetime, like they're just looking and searching and waiting for things to be perfect and for perfect clarity. And
yeah,
does not happen.
I always say when I first got into this and I watched The Secret and manifesting, there was one part I forgot, which was taking action.
Exactly.
And so now everything I talk about when I'm working with people, I'm like, you can go research this on your own. I'm all about taking action because there is this what did I hear someone call it? Spiritual entertainment. Entertaining yourself with the self-help sector. And it's actually a form of resistance.
It's a crutch. Absolutely. It's avoidance and resistance because it's just like you just they keep sucking you in because that's just how that industry works, right? But you have to step back and go, okay, I may not have all the answers, but I'm going to take a step. And what I always advocate, what I always tell women is it does not have to be a giant leap. Like the action, we always think massive action. No, it's a baby step. One baby step. Just take one little baby step. And you don't even need to know what the next step is. Just take one step. Action. Intentional action. Not just actually it does, intentional, but it may not be the right one, right? But take a step. I say take a step. Check in with your gut. Everything good? Feels good. Balance. People talk about balance. I talk about this is balance, not work life. It's head and heart. When all this is balance, take the next step. You may take a step backwards. You may take a side step. That's how life is.
It's a dance.
It's a dance, absolutely. But just take baby steps forward and stay in action. And that's not only the best thing you do for yourself, but the best thing you can do for your children. Children want to see the mom. And any children, little children, big children, they're inspired by seeing somebody going after their dreams and doing things that they love. And so it ain't selfish. I'll keep saying that because I know that guilt is always there for women, but it's not selfish. So, what I talk about now is about showing up. I talk about action, but it's not even about action and whatever. It's about showing up for your life.
So let's talk about that. What does it actually mean to show up? Because I've had conversations with women where like, I get the showing up part now, but what does it mean to fully show up for your life?
That's a great question because this is really my new focus is about showing up. Showing up means listening to your needs, wants, desires, and not putting those at the bottom of the list. Doesn't have to be number one, but at least somewhere near the top. Showing up means honoring your self. Means speaking up when things don't feel right. Showing up means asking. Asking for what you want. We expect people to know what we want, but we're afraid to ask. It means showing up and speaking up. It means owning who you are. You're not too talkative. I was told that all my life. Too emotional, too intense, too this, too that. It means owning who you are. Accepting your imperfections means just embracing, the wrinkles, the whatever you got. Just showing up for yourself. Accepting, loving, honoring who you are. All of you. Doesn't mean you're perfect. I'm not perfect and nobody's perfect, but it means accepting and honoring that. So when you show up with that mindset, And be authentic. I know it's such an overused word these days, but it rocks. It rocks. Authentic does not mean positive. Authentic does not mean happy. Authentic just means real, vulnerable, real, owning who you are, and just showing up powerfully, consistently, authentically. This is my three pillars for showing up.
So how do you show up when your whole life has been the contrast? So you're used to playing small, you're used to hiding, you're used to not being vulnerable, not speaking your truth, not speaking up. How do you sit with that discomfort and that emotion of fear and guilt and anxiety and overwhelm, but knowing that freedom is on the other side, right? Everyone tells you, show up, be authentic, be all of this. But if I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh, it could be in your business, doing a Facebook Live, that makes me want to vomit and crap my pants at the same time. How am I supposed to do that, knowing that on the other side, I'm going to be okay, but right now I truly feel like I'm going to fall apart?
That's another really good question. Because I teach visibility, and I do get the clients who want to barf at the thought of a Facebook Live. And if that's the reaction you have, then don't do a Facebook Live. You want to be a little bit uncomfortable, whether we're talking business or life. You want to be a little bit uncomfortable. You want to keep your eye on the prize. So what do you want? Why do you want to do this? What's the intention behind you showing up? What's your intention behind whatever? What's the intention? And if you get really focused on the end result, it may not be right away. It should make it a little bit easier for you to show up. When I started my business, I could not for the life of me speak in front of a group. Could not. I just couldn't do it. I'm not shy. I'm not, I'm pretty confident person, but public speaking just eluded me. So I brought in a co-organizer. I'll come back to, I know I'm kind of taking a bit of a tangent. And I did that for a few months. Who was doing all the welcoming and all the talking in my events. That's the irony of it all. After 6 months, I thought, well, this makes no sense because I'm telling women to be fearless and do this and do that. So we parted ways. And I knew that I needed to get up in front of a group of people and get comfortable speaking. I was so passionate about my message that I did what I needed to do to get comfortable. So I joined Toastmasters, I got some training, and eventually got easier and easier and easier. So the reason I went on this tangent, because I can understand. So it does not have to be a black or white. It may not be Facebook Live or whatever it is, may not be the thing for you right now. But what would work? What would make you a little bit uncomfortable, but maybe not throw up, that will get you to where you want to go? So baby steps. I'm a huge believer in baby steps. So you don't have to be totally uncomfortable. We talk about, going after your dreams. But yeah, if you're terrified, that's not going to work. You're going to show up and you're going to be shaking in your boot. You're not going to show up comfortable, powerful. What's the one little thing? And then when I work with clients, what is one thing you can do? Can you put a Facebook post? Can you not just share something, but can you actually write something, some original content? Can you write a blog post? What's one thing that's going to push you a little bit and you get comfortable with that? And then you go, it's like building a muscle, right? Mm-hmm. And then what's the next thing? And what's the next thing? So showing up does not go from this to this. It goes from this to this. Maybe you hide again. You go, and then you get comfortable. But it's not a black and white, like nothing else in life. It's all, and forgiving yourself and having compassion for yourself and honoring, like, I'm not a Facebook Live person right now. Always at the right now, right? But you never know where you're going to be in a few years. Going back to my public speaking, I mean, I love public speaking now. I couldn't do it 10 years ago. And now I love public speaking. Mm-hmm. So always add a for now. This is not my thing right now, video or whatever it is. But you never know as you grow and evolve. And for me, by the way, we all, at least for me, the tendency to hide comes up again and again. It's not like, you see people and they look like they're out there all the time. There's still, sometimes you have days where you just want to hide. So if that's how you feel today, I just go in hiding for a couple of days. It's okay. And sometimes I just think, okay, what's the one thing I can do to show up and not really feel exposed, right? Because that's what keeps us from showing up. Maybe I'll write a blog post or something. So I'm kind of sharing my message without putting myself out there. So, but it's important just to stay in that action and to show up for ourselves and to speak our truth. For me, it's just really important to create the legacy that I'm committed to creating.
I love this. And I love how, again, always going back to Bob, right? Like,
I know
this man who you barely knew, who was just being himself, his authentic self, who was inspiring other people who didn't even know him. So it just goes to show, when you are more in alignment with who you are and the person you were born to be, you're inspiring people just by being you.
Absolutely.
And so this is so easy to talk about when you're on the other side, right? And talk about, just take that little step, Knowing the organization that you've created and the connections that you've created, now going, okay, I get what they mean when they say I'm a connector, building this big network of women. What, if you had to pick some qualities about people who get to the other side? And when I say get to the other side, I mean, there's no arrival. We're constantly learning and growing, but people who step outside of that gap between a thought or a desire and then manifesting it. Would you say there's qualities about people that push through that barrier of, I don't want this, and then expanding themselves?
The women in my community all have the passion and they all have the desire. And for me, everything starts with desire. Like I'm all about living a life of desire. Some of them get caught up in the search and the seeking and the looking and, instead of like taking action. But in terms of quality for me, from what I've seen, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but is the showing up, the consistency, and willingness to make mistakes, making friends with fear. You are going to be terrified. Making friends with imperfection. We're going to make mistakes. And if you're a control freak and you're waiting for things to be just perfect, you're never going to cross. It's like you have to accept the fact, like a bungee jump. You're going to be terrified and you don't know how it's going to go. You have to be willing to let go of the past, whatever, wherever you are. Not let go, but like it's like jumping off a cliff, right? And you trust is the other thing, is to trust. Not in the universe. You can trust in that too. Not in the people around you, which is amazing to have, but trust in you. Trust in your own ability that if you do fall flat on your face, God knows I have, that you're going to be able to pick up, dust yourself off, and you're going to be okay. Love how I love all this stuff, and build a support network. I'm all for support network. Trust in God, universe, whatever, all of that. Amazing. That's all going to help you feel more confident. But if you don't believe in your own resilience and ability to get up if you do fall, then all of this stuff is not going to make a difference. So you have to be able to kind of trust, take action, and just, you have to have the commitment to go on the big prize. If you don't, so you need not clarity, but you need to be willing to make a difference, make change, do something, right? If you're too comfortable in the status quo and you don't have that desire to change things, so it's not like, that's to me, the foundational piece is the desire. Mm-hmm. You need the desire. And then the rest may not totally fall into place, but you'll figure it out if the desire is powerful.
Yeah.
Like mine was when I started.
Yeah. And now I listen to my desire and I take that as like my next step, right? Like, what am I desiring? It could be a walk, right? Like, I'm going for a walk as soon as this interview is done. I got to get outside, soak up that, the sun, because I'm listening. Okay, it's a desire. I want this. But I could have, when I started my business, I would have easily said, Heather, you're not allowed to go outside until the kids come home. You're not allowed to stop working until the kids come home. But realizing your body, your mind, like soul, whatever, is constantly pulling you in the direction that you need to go. And if you just lean in and go, okay, I'll go for that walk. Oh, on that walk, I got this inspiration. And then I followed this and this and this.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I love what you're talking about when it's, you're like, yeah, I got this big network now, but it started with, I want change, right? I'm sure if you looked, back then, you would have never imagined where you'd be today.
I had no idea. I honestly had no idea. This was not, when I started this, it wasn't even a business. It was a desire to bring people together. I went on Meetup and I created a Meetup for women, and here I am. There's no business plan, and I have a business degree and all these years in corporate. It was just, but it was a desire to do something for me, listening to my intuition and just that want that just it was just I couldn't sleep. Like I had no choice. It was like all day long I had to do this. So
do you remember the first event? Like how many women were there?
Oh, yeah.
What you did, what you talked about?
Yeah. It was like so I started my Meetup. I launched it January 6th, coming up to 10 years in January. So that's a day that we usually celebrate. And the first Meetup was in February, and it was like, let's come out. And like, we basically, we were expecting like 20 people. We had about 45, which was amazing. And we talked about our vision. I say we, because I had my co-founder with me, because I wasn't doing a lot of the talking back then. And we basically like listened, like, here's what we have in mind. What would you like to see? What format? This, that. We asked for. I still have like the actual survey forms, just because it was just so amazing to look at that. This was the foundation, and then we listened. What did people want in the community? And we started creating events from that. And and I remember my co-founder, who was more business minded, even though I'm the one with the business degree. She kept saying, all right, we need to come up, create a website, a business plan. I'm like, I just want to enjoy. Like I said, I remember saying to her, I said, I feel like I'm holding a baby and falling in love with this baby, and you keep telling me where I'm sending him to university. I don't know. I'm just in love with this baby. So for me, this was giving birth to a baby. And I was just so happy. Like I have this like idea that came to life, and I'm just happy to watch it kind of smile and grow and blossom. But I really had no real vision at the beginning of where this was going. It took me about 18 months until I kind of like owned, like, okay, this is a business. I need to start treating it like a business. We need to have a website and monetize and blah, blah, blah. But at the beginning, it was just like a fun passion project, which was awesome. I mean, fun. And I'm grateful that I had, I could do that. But it was an amazing experience to watch the seed kind of sprouting and sprouting.
And I love that you did it, because I talk a lot about, you're at the beginning of this conversation, you were mentioning about, okay, now I'm a single mother and I can feel myself going into that victimhood of like, poor me, I'm single. And
oh yeah.
And then you're like, okay, I got to make things happen. Like this is, you feel backed in a corner, and it's just the resilience of, this isn't going to be my identity anymore. I'm not going to allow this to consume me. So who you are today, what would you say to that version of yourself before the funeral, before that aha moment?
Oh yeah, I have a few. You got this. Like seriously, you got this. trust in yourself. I haven't learned anything. I knew what I needed to know even then. I have this moment that I talk about sometimes when I was working in that payroll job. I went into the washroom and I broke down in tears looking at myself in the mirror and feeling so sorry for myself. How did I end up here? How am I ever going to get out of here? And that was like sort of my low point in the little washroom, in a manufacturing plant environment that's just so foreign to me. And if I were to talk to that Katia now, saying, Katia, you are smart enough. You are strong enough. Just trust in yourself. Trust in your skills and your abilities and your talents and your gifts. And let go of all these excuses. So many excuses. Oh, but I have small children. Oh, but I have, they have ADHD and I need time for medical appointments. And yes, and I had a million excuses. I could go on for days about it. Where did that get me? It's like Dr. Phil says, how is that working for you? It wasn't working for me. I was not happy. It was not working for me. I knew that I needed more from life. And I had to trust and listen to that voice and let go of all the other stuff. Thank you very much. I appreciate the concern. Now I got to get back to living my life. That's what I do now when they creep up.
Yeah. And sometimes I'm like, that thought is just like that annoying toddler that's trying to get your attention. You're like, okay, cool. Mom still needs to cook dinner, do the dishes, so you can hang on to my leg. Here's some Cheerios. Here's some goldfish. I love you. Hugs, kisses. But we're co-creating this day together.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah,
I love it. It's like the annoying toddler. I love it.
So, Katia, what are you up to? Like, where can people get a hold of you if they're not local, if they're not in Toronto? Where can they find you? And if they are local, what do you have going on?
Okay. Perfect timing. I'm very excited to answer that question. We have just announced like 2 days ago. I haven't even made the announcements online. We are launching 6 chapters for Positive Fabulous Women in the next couple of months, all in the Toronto area, one a little bit outside. And that is just the beginning. Again, we talk about like the seed. So this is just the seed. This, I don't want to get into the whole story, but this was not even planned. It just kind of like came out of nowhere and it's like turning into a whole, I don't know where it's going. So for all I know, I might be starting chapters outside of the Toronto area. Who knows? So there's lots of growth and expansion, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So in Toronto area, we have 6, like I said, like just Vaughan, Etobicoke, downtown, East, so just in the Toronto area. And so that is one thing that is happening, and that's going to be a big part of what I'm doing is just sort of creating, because I've been talking about the toddler and, using the mom analogy since it's our audience. I've had this business for almost 10 years, and people say to me, you need to start other chapters. Oh, no. This is my business, my brand. I can't have anybody else because it's like I don't want to be there. I'm holding on to this child. He's 10 years old, and I don't want him to go to school. Or that's how I feel like I'm just like so protective of my brand. And I had this like little mind shift in the summer and realizing how selfish I've been, because there are women all over Canada, the world who can benefit. And I'm thinking, no, it's my brand. Like I got to get out of my own way. There are women who can communicate my brand with their own gifts. I don't need clones of Katia. There are lots of women who bring their own gifts, who resonate with my values and message and communicate that. So I'm so excited, not only at the launch of the chapters, but proud of myself that I was able to like go and send my baby off to the next stage, because there's so much growth to be had from this stage. So that is the one thing that I'm totally excited about. Oh my God. And then I have bigger events in Toronto. I have one coming up November 23, which is a day long, like a business planning event for 2018. and lots of juicy bits happening here and there. But the best way to find out about any of that, well, I mean, we have a Facebook page, Facebook group, connect with me personally. Lots of stuff happening. So much juice. I can barely contain myself with excitement these days. Like, honestly, the last couple of months have just been like, I can barely sleep. And people say, oh, you must be exhausted. Well, yeah, there's a little bit of that, but I'm so excited. Like, I'm on such a high when, like I said, I'm a big believer in riding the wave, and I've had enough time sort of in that bottom, like trying to figure out what I was doing and what's the next stage and how. So it's not, I'm not one of those people that pretends like things are just good and better and awesome. No, I've had some pretty shitty times, months, weeks, or whatever. So I always say, everything is temporary. Like, I know I sound like a Buddhist, but nothing will last forever. So when I'm on a high, like I am these days, I'm grateful. I love it. And I also know it's not going to last forever. So I just like savor the moment, because I know I'm going to go, oh, what? Where was that again? And I got to get into not a funk, but you kind of lose that clarity, and then it'll come back again. But right now I'm in just like super high and awesome. So I'm glad we connected while I'm in that. Now I'm sounding bipolar or something.
But it's very true. And when I work with a lot of women who are going from stay at home or working for a job and then having the passion and transitioning. And I was like, one thing that people don't talk about a lot is the roller coaster of owning your own business, right? Because I mean, there's a roller coaster when you're a parent, and people talk a lot about how women make great entrepreneurs because of what they can manage and stuff like that. But when I stepped into entrepreneurship, riding the wave of, am I normal? Is this crazy? Do I need medication? Like, what is going on? And realizing now that this too shall pass, this too shall pass. And you begin to see a cycle of, oh, okay, yeah, oh, the breakthrough is coming. Like I know, oh yes, like now I'm going to ride this high wave.
Exactly.
And then you begin to enjoy the contrast of when you are in this moment, you're like, I'm so grateful I can feel this, because I know it's
like the sun and the rain or whatever, right? You just kind of, it's going to be sunny and it's going to rain, and you just have to kind of learn without judgment, or it's good or bad. It is what it is, right? But I mean, especially in this age of social media, people, with the odd exception, people don't talk about their off days, right? And the struggles, maybe sometimes to be authentic, right? Like even when it's done. So we end up feeling like we're the only ones. Everybody else is, like they say, you compare your crappy days with everybody's sizzle, the sizzle reel. So it's important to know that we all have those days, and don't judge it and don't beat yourself up, because it's like when you're having a baby, you look at a parenting magazine and it's the baby sleeping on the mother's chest and they all look so angelic. Anybody who had a baby, we know it's not always like that. Mine were certainly not like that. And entrepreneurship, it's sexy and awesome and all of that, but the reality of it is there's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of isolation. There's a lot of feelings of, not good enough and whatever. So it's so easy to get caught up in comparing and beating yourself up. But we're all going through something, right?
Yeah. And I love that what you've been talking about, like this theme throughout this conversation has been trust yourself, because there will be nothing, I mean, parenting as well, but business, trusting who you are and your capabilities is the essential of growth. And it always comes back to, do I trust my capabilities as a human being to pull this off, to follow through, to show up?
Absolutely. And the one last thing I want to say before, I know you're just about to ask me something, is this whole self-love versus, we talk about self-care. A lot of moms or stressed, well, women in general, but moms, self-care. So they go for a mani-pedi spa day. That does nothing.
No,
You want to develop that self-trust and that honor yourself. It's about self-love. It's not about self-care is great. Yeah, go get your nails done, whatever, massage, but that does not make you feel like you're honoring. It's honoring your physical body, but it's not honoring your heart, your intuition. So this is what you need to be working on. This is self-love, which is a little bit different. It includes the self-care, but it's a little bit different. Not everybody who practices, self-care knows a thing or two about self-love. So it's about forgiving, loving, trusting, all these things that we're talking about. That's where the juice is at, baby.
Yeah. Yes. Because holding a boundary, right? And going, no,
exactly.
I am, whether it's going to the gym or whether it's, hey, I am going to take time to eat this healthy lunch and I'm going to sit with earplugs on and I'm going to tell you that I will be available in an hour. Just owning that for you.
That is self-love. Absolutely. Saying no is self-love.
Mm-hmm.
Although this is all acts of self-love. So practicing that will help you kind of cross over to the other side, like we're talking about.
Crossing over to the other side. Yeah. Welcome
wilderness.
To the other side.
Yeah.
So Katia, it's positivefabulouswomen.com. That's where where everybody can find everything that's coming up with whether they want to connect with you in person or see what you have going on online. And I love it. Maybe one day there'll be a chapter in Windsor.
That would be awesome. Awesome. One thing, especially for your listeners, that we have a PFW manifesto on the website. It's a free download. And it's just a one-page poster that I cannot tell you the numbers of women who have told me that they have this on their fridge, and it's like a reminder, because all these things we talk about, sometimes you're gonna, like we said, we have days when you're like, I forget that I'm this or that. I need a little reminder from me. So it's just a cool little poster that they can print off that we actually we did like a thing and we got 350 women to submit, like, I'm a positive, fabulous woman. I am blank. And we had all these responses. So we had 350, and then we pulled the ones that were the most that resonated, and we created this beautiful artwork. So welcome to download that. You'll find that on our website. And just reach out to me personally, say hello on Facebook, Twitter, whatever, any social media platform.
I love this. Thank you, Katia. I mean, sharing your story has been inspiring. And I can already think of women in my community that I'm like, you need to watch this interview and listen to it, because it's just showing you, if you listen to desire, if you trust yourself and keep leaning in and taking those little micro baby action steps, you don't need to know what the next one is. You never know where you're going to be in 10 years.
Or 5 years, or 1 year.
Or tomorrow.
You never know.
Thank you, Katia.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Heather. It was a pleasure to talk to you. Fantastic.